Alright, hey everybody. So today I've got a really, in my opinion, it's a really cool video to kind of assess here today. Stephan, if you live under a rock and you have no idea who he is, he's a 30-year-old YouTuber with about 3.2 million subs on his main channel. He's a real estate investor and a stock investor. He's been mentioned in CNBC Millennial Money. He's been mentioned on Forbes, and you might have caught a snippet of him on Netflix's reality series, Selling Sunset. I have to admit, a guilty pleasure of mine. And I also forgot to mention here that his net worth is around $6.5 million. It could be a little bit higher or a little bit lower. The internet can't always calculate everything here. So I tend to watch Graham's channel pretty often, and I noticed that he had Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, reacting to Graham's investments. He actually had him on an episode. The video is called, or it's titled, Kevin O'Leary Reacts to My $10 Million Investment Shark Tank. The video is in the description below. I highly encourage you to go and watch it. And if I remember this correctly, I do believe it was a two-part sort of series. Obviously, you've got Graham and Mr. Wonderful chatting in the same video. I had to click on that, and I'm glad I did. So the video starts out with Kevin reviewing Graham's real estate investments, which have done significantly well, being that he bought properties throughout the housing crash. A great time to go in and buy those properties. His first 3 properties that he bought, they were all bought outright in cash. Absolutely amazing. It takes a lot of determination and just discipline to get to that point. And it goes to show that this is kind of one of the reasons why you should have cash, precious metals, or income-producing assets kind of set aside in case we were to get another crash of any kind. It could be commercial real estate, it could be housing, but there's opportunity. During crisis, there's always an opportunity, and you should be ready to capitalize on that. The next properties that were shown are bought with leverage, so there is some debt that's in here. And then Kevin actually gives really, really good advice here.
If the poo-poo hits the fan and values go down across any asset class, including real estate, you still owe that $1 million.
Correct.
So you got to start being sensitive to how much debt you want to bring into your world. A lot of people don't understand how debt can put you out of business.
Later on, Graham explains why he doesn't raise rent price, and I just want to mention that because if you capitalize on an opportunity during a crisis, you actually have a whole lot of flexibility to how much you can take in for rent, right? You've got a lot of control over that scenario at that point, especially those properties, most of them being paid off now. You have total control of how much rent you charge, and this can be very competitive. Most of his properties, I do believe, are in California, so it's extremely, extremely important to have good tenants as well. So if you live in a state like that, and it's kind of hard to get rid of tenants if you need to, there's some leverage there to being able to be very flexible with your monthly rent and not have to raise them like most people do. We could be seeing another housing crash here in the next, I'd say 2 to 10 years. I guess this all depends on inflation and if the economy can bounce back or not, but we kind of know it's been zombified for a while. Kevin then asks about how much debt is held in Graham's properties.
What is your total debt nut across all the buildings?
About 2.9.
Okay, I'm just saying that would start to make me nervous. Just not because it isn't well invested. That's a big number.
And now that we've seen that, I just want everyone to be sure. Know this, always be sure to have enough cash on hand to pay off debts at any time. There's a lot of people out there that will show you how you can gain your net worth very quickly by using a lot of leverage and a lot of debt. And that's only good as long as things are good. Remember, when the carousel stops, the ride is over. You could go bankrupt overnight. So if you plan on investing or doing anything, be sure, number 1, you are only investing what you can afford to lose. And number 2, I think that it is so important to be able to pay that debt off at any day. Now, we can use debt to our advantage. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, given the scenario that we're in. Yes, take advantage of that. It does make sense, but always be sure that you have got enough set aside to handle things if stuff goes south. Let's just be realistic here. Be ready for things to go south at any time. So, and one of the biggest takeaways I actually got from this video is Kevin O'Leary actually said, never let one asset class become more than 20% of your net worth. Now, this is really stuck with me, and it's actually a big reason, more than Graham being invested in SLV. I'll get to that here in a moment. This is why this video is really stuck in my head. I absolutely love Kevin O'Leary. I get it. He's in the Billionaire Boys Clubs, and most of you are going to bat your eyes at this. But out of the people out there that are this successful, he tends to be very blunt and straightforward with things. When he's asked a question, he doesn't tiptoe around it, and I can really appreciate that sort of thing. And it's had me thinking differently, because most of you guys know I have felt good in my physical silver position. I feel good there. I've been stacking since I was 18. I'm 24 years old now. And it's time for me to start kind of expanding my portfolio, which I have been doing slowly. Most of you guys know that I do hold crypto, precious metals, and very few stocks. I've never mentioned what stocks that I hold, and oftentimes I won't mention what cryptos I hold either, because I'm not trying to get you guys to buy into anything. I'm so small in this world anyway that thinking that me talking about this stuff is going to move price or I'm shilling something, it doesn't really make much sense. I mean, just look at how small the channel is. I'm just letting you guys know what I'm doing in the moment. And as of right now, I don't really care to tell you exactly what I'm holding, but this 20% of your net worth, never let any asset class become more than that. I absolutely love that, especially with this moment where I've been telling you guys, look, we could head for deflation or inflation any day now. And we are seeing inflation, but there's a chance that it could taper off. I don't believe that that's going to happen. There would have to be a lot of controls put in place to not let inflation run away at this point. But even if we have inflation, I think that if we're set up and if we're in the right positions, we've been responsible, we've been dedicated to putting cash and precious metals aside. The reason I'm not as big on cash, I do have a tiny portion of cash set aside. I'm not as big on that because at the moment, this is going to sound so silly, and don't take it the wrong way, but you've got to spend it. If inflation is going the direction that we think that it's going in, it needs to be spent. I mean, look at the used car price, look at new car price, you know, things like this. The expenses are adding up, and they just tend to get more expensive for things that you need. So preferably at the moment, even if I'm not buying gold or silver, I want to put my money into something that's useful or something that's going to work for me. And I have not stopped buying silver. I've had a couple people ask me that. I've not stopped buying silver. I've just slowed down a little bit, and I want to put different percentages aside into different asset classes. All right. So at this point in the video, we now get to see Kevin O'Leary reviewing Graham's investments in the stock market. You know, a lot of us know him for his real estate, and if you watch his channel enough, then you do understand that he's very, very invested in the stock market. So he has 1.1 million, around this much money, invested in stocks. In index funds, he's got around $772,000. He's got about $150,000 in California tax bonds. And here's the moment that made my jaw hit the floor. Stephan is actually invested in SLV. Now, it's not a huge portion, but he does have around $12,000 in SLV. And this video that he made was actually uploaded on September 23rd of 2020. So if my calculation is correct, there should have been no talk from Wall Street Silver or any of the big Reddit pages as of yet about investing into silver. So I'm assuming that he got here on his own. And I'm about to circle back to SLV here in a minute, but let's go through the other investments that he has here. So he's got 40,000 in Acorns and kind of some other places. Obviously, he goes to a lot of the different investing platforms and kind of lets us know what's going to be the best bang for your buck. This is a huge reason I watch the channel, along with being more educated in building credit and just kind of how to work this system, right? I mean, honestly, it's going to be really tough to beat and break the system. I know that that's what a lot of people hope for. I also hope that if that's your intention, that you're fully prepared for what happens after that. So many people almost like salivate from the mouth for this whole system to come crashing down. And I get it, it's cool, beat the bankers, right? But are you actually prepared when that day comes? Just wondering about that. I kind of slipped off a little bit there, but let me get back into this. He's also got $320,000 sitting in a brokerage account. So, and this probably isn't everything. I mean, this is just a small portion. And like I said, this video was uploaded September 23rd of 2020. So SLV he could have depleted that. He could have sold it off. Maybe he bought more. I have no idea. But the biggest reason I wanted to make this video is somebody tell Graham to get out of SLV. Graham, I've now mentioned, I've watched plenty of his videos. Somebody tell him to get out of this. He normally does a ton of research, whatever he's about to invest into. I know that he puts in a lot of work and thinks it through. Why did he choose SLV? Why not physical silver in his hands or gold? And maybe he has that. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. I would love to know. Why not PSLV, the Sprott Trust? Why not that? Why not put it, well, no, I don't think he would ever actually pay for storage in a vault somewhere. Graham's really good about saving his money. I mean, he won't even buy iced coffees or anything, right? He'll make them himself, which is smart, guys. There's no reason for you to be spending, I don't know, what is it, like $3 to $7 on some fancy coffee? Like, you could just make it at home. So I guess he's not going to pay for storage anywhere, but I would really prefer to see him get out of SLV. And the number one reason for that, if you guys are new to hearing anything about SLV, the reason I am so against it is, number one, you can never get physical delivery of that silver. Number two, there seems to be a bit of a, you might call it a liquidity crisis in the silver market. There's some funny business going on between the COMEX, which is SLV, and JP Morgan. And if you guys want to go and look this up, JP Morgan has gotten in trouble in the past, I do believe more than two times, one or two times, for manipulating the price of silver.
The point is that there might have been a broader manipulation across many years.
Right, exactly. So what the U.S. government is claiming, and they were talking about this morning on a call with reporters, is that this has been going on for about 8 years, in which these traders, they specifically were clearly kind of talking about JP Morgan here. I mean, the names that we have in the story do refer to these JP Morgan executives. They had been spoofing the market for the better part of 8 years, and silver, gold, platinum, palladium, I mean, all of the precious metals.
So if we're trying to get out of this evil cycle of these big banks manipulating the price of a commodity, you've got to get that silver in your hands. So I'm not really sure the reason on why Graham's invested in SLV. It could be a hedge against inflation. It could be all the green energy sort of deals that we're moving towards. I mean, you have to have silver. If you didn't have silver, the world wouldn't work the way that it does. Okay? Silver is in everything. It's extremely important. So one of these two reasons is probably why he's in it. And I'm glad that he wants exposure to silver. I just think that SLV is the wrong way to go. And if anybody's questioning why I mention this, go check out the Wall Street Silver Reddit page. Now, yeah, me and the guys over there that run it don't have the greatest relationship, but there are some very, very smart people over there, and you can dive into what's happening. I mean, just this year alone, it's been incredible, and the volume on silver is up so much. I mean, as far as retail investors coming in, the demand is so high now. And my big fear here is that if he does have SLV as a hedge against inflation, my concern is if the liquidity dries up for some reason they just turn off trading of SLV. Now that could be because the silver's not there. It could just be, I don't know, something that they come up with. They could come up with any reason to turn it off and not let you cash out of that. That's going to be a problem, because what if he wants to use that exposure that he has to silver, which that's in SLV, what if he wants to use that to buy more properties or to buy a stock that's severely, I mean, we're talking about half off here if shit totally hits the fan. Maybe he's not going to be able to do that, but he could if he had physical silver in his hands. I do trust PSLV more than the other. PSLV is not an ETF, but I do trust it more than the other paper contracts that are out there. Also for Graham, the option of PSLV or even having a gold and silver backed IRA. He's very big into IRAs. You can have a gold and silver backed IRA. I don't necessarily see problems with that for someone in his position. But at least with those two options, PSLV or a gold and silver backed IRA, you can get physical delivery of your gold and silver. And if there was a time where you really needed it or really wanted it because, you know, there's just some kind of opportunity out there that's too good to miss out on, and it's time to liquidate some of your assets that are performing extremely well, I mean, you're going to want the freedom to be able to do that, right? I don't know if people in SLV understand how it's necessarily built and how it works, and it's definitely worth looking into. Now, I'm not going to break all that down in this video. For a lot of people, it gets far too boring. Somebody's going to end up falling asleep, and I'm just not going to bore you with the details of that. But if you are interested, please do go look into it and why I discourage anyone from getting into SLV. Now, I guess if you've got a safe full of silver, you're already paying for private storage somewhere, and you've got your IRA and some PSLV, sure, have at it. But I don't know, you're not going to get the most bang for your buck in SLV. I mean, Graham, go and, if you ever get the chance to, which you're probably not going to see this video, I don't know why I'm saying that, but somebody go tell Graham to have him go and look at the premiums that are on silver now. When you're just trading your SLV, you're not going to have any premium on that silver. I mean, SLV is ran by the same people tapering that price down. They beat it like a hammer every time we hit a certain price. I mean, what's going to happen just when we hit $30? It's likely going to get smacked down again. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We know how manipulated this market is. But if you've got physical silver in your hands, especially depending on what you have, there is a very high premium for that stuff right now. Now, maybe because, you know, he's worth about $6 million, that premium doesn't really matter to him. But at the end of the day, every cent counts, right? Every cent, every dollar counts. So if you want the most bang for your buck, I would say find a safe place to store your physical silver, somewhere that you can go to that location, pick it up, and sell it at any time that you want with no restrictions. That's all I have for you today. Sorry if I came at you with like way too much energy. I have had a lot of coffee, but also just this subject really hypes me up. I'm happy to see that someone like Graham does have exposure to silver. I think that he could just do a better job at picking a different ETF or a way around this. SLV cannot be trusted. That's all I have for you guys today. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.